If The Walking Dead wouldn't have plot armor, many of our favorite characters would have been dead by now. Let's start off with Rick Grimes. In the first episode, we get introduced to him as he wakes up from a coma in a hospital after he got shot, not knowing yet what has happened to the world. He gets up and regains mobility immediately, even walking perfectly fine a few hours later, while realistically he would have been barely able to stand, as he hadn't used his muscles for weeks. One example for this is Max from Stranger Things, who had to be in a wheelchair after she woke up. He would also have to face severe dehydration and malnutrition, as nobody was caring for him anymore, and the same goes for antibiotics. His wound would have gotten easily infected, and the environment wasn't sterile anymore either. Another thing that probably would have gotten him killed are the walkers. In the later seasons, they were mindlessly walking around, while the earlier seasons showed signs of retaining memory, using weapons and even open doors so realistically locked doors wouldn't have stopped them. Carl could have easily died seasons earlier. He is shot in the abdomen in season 2. In the real world, that wound alone would likely kill him. Internal bleeding, infection, no real surgery, no sterile tools, and he's a child, meaning less blood, weaker recovery, and higher risk. But Carl survives with barely any long-term consequences. Carl also constantly makes decisions that would get anyone killed. He wanders off alone. He talks to strangers. In a world where one mistake means death, Carl survives dozens of them. Walkers grab him, even knock him down, but never actually bite him, because the walkers hesitate, or someone always saves him at the last second. The group bends around Carl's survival, even when it doesn't make sense. And here's the most telling part. When Carl finally loses his plot armor, he dies almost immediately. One bite, game over. Daryl Dixon is often seen as one of the most capable survivors in The Walking Dead, and early on, that reputation makes sense. He knows how to track, hunt, stay quiet, and live off the land. But as the series goes on, Daryl's survival becomes less about skill and more about protection from the story itself. He repeatedly leaves the group to operate alone, walks into hostile territory without backup, and puts himself in situations where one mistake would mean instant death. Walkers grab him but hesitate instead of biting. Human enemies miss shots at close range. Injuries that should slow him down or kill him heal quickly with little consequence. He's captured multiple times, yet always manages to escape when others don't. Daryl also makes emotional, reckless decisions that never fully cost him the way they cost other characters. To use an example, we can talk about the lineup scene where Daryl tries to intervene. In a world as unforgiving as The Walking Dead, those patterns aren't realistic. Without plot armor, Daryl wouldn't die because he lacks skill. He'd die because even the best survivor eventually runs out of luck. If we also jump to the show Daryl Dixon, it is highly unlikely that him and Carol would actually manage to sail a boat through the ocean with no experience at all, and then survive a crash too. Another pretty unrealistic scenario where a character should have died is Glenn and Nicholas on the dumpster. Nicholas kills himself, and Glenn falls down with him. Instead of biting Glenn, they only focus on Nicholas. Usually they are drawn to living prey, yet they ignore Glenn completely. He clearly moved, and it looks like he screamed too. So why wouldn't at least one walker notice him? Then him moving underneath the dumpster should have caused enough movement for the walkers to see that he's there as well. When they finally do notice him and reach for him on every side of the dumpster, it's pretty unrealistic that he's able to move this fast in a tight space and kill them all without one of them coming too close. It is clear that they needed to save him to go through with his later death in the show. One of the most unrealistic plots, though, is Ezekiel surviving cancer. As his cancer got diagnosed years into the apocalypse, there is no possibility of early detection, which means by the time it got discovered, it must have been very advanced already. Even if a doctor is available, the equipment, medications, and long-term treatment schedules simply aren't. Missed doses or incomplete treatment drastically lower survival odds. Cancer treatment also weakens the immune system. In a world filled with infections, open wounds, poor sanitation, and constant physical stress, that vulnerability becomes deadly. A minor infection that would normally be manageable could turn fatal without antibiotics or proper aftercare. On top of that, poor nutrition and chronic stress reduce the body's ability to recover and respond to treatment. Surgery, if attempted, would be incredibly dangerous. Without fully sterile tools, blood supplies, or post-operative care, complications like sepsis or internal bleeding would be extremely likely. Pain management would be limited, recovery time would be longer, and any interruption, like an attack, could undo everything. These aren't the only characters with plot armor, though. The same goes for characters like Maggie or Carol. Even though I love them all and wouldn't like to let go of them, I think it gets kind of boring when you just know that they would never kill a certain character off. Thanks for watching my video. I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. See you next time.